Hey guys, how's it going? It's Winter coming at you today with Aegis, and we're about to do another Blind Guardian video. We know that last time we actually got some views, we actually got some likes on the video, and I'm a genuine Blind Guardian fan. Aegis, I have been pushing for a few years now to give Blind Guardian a chance. Aegis, how'd you feel after the last one?
They remind me a lot of Iron Maiden, actually. Also, what's up, guys? But yeah, Iron Maiden, a lot of those melodic metal bands, kind of like maybe Dream Theater, where I don't know if the album has an overarching story. You could probably lead more into that, but it felt like at least the song was really long and it really told a good story. So I'm excited to hear this next one.
So Night at the Opera, as far as I'm aware, did not have a concept throughout the entire album besides big epic stories. I believe there were multiple songs throughout the album that told stories from history. They also have an album that's called Nightfall on Middle Earth that explores stories from the Middle Earth canon. This album is a concept album. It's very complicated to explain, and I'm sure we're going to run into bigger Blind Guardian fans than me that are going to pick apart what I have to say. But yes, this is a concept album, and we're going to do the first two songs on the album, which which are The Ninth Wave and Twilight of the Gods. They are together combined formed to be section one of the album, and section one of the album is called Cleansing of the Promised Land. Aegis, are you ready to listen to 13 and a half minutes worth of story driven music again?
100%. But also, when you said Middle Earth before, were you meaning like Lord of the Rings Middle Earth?
Yes.
Okay, we should listen to that one at some point soon. Cool.
Fair enough. Okay, so I want to give a little backstory on these songs because it's completely necessary, and I won't lie, even with the backstory, I still get a little confused. Um, this album is called Beyond the Red Mirror, and it's based on a previous song that they wrote that was about King Arthur. And that song effectively presented King Arthur as a modern day hero rather than a more old school hero. And he's presented with the option of going through a red mirror to save a realm that isn't his. Now, I'm going to skip over a bunch of information. It is just one song. You can listen to it sometime yourself, but he elects not to go. And because he does not go, this realm falls into a state of disrepair and a state of war and death. So he eventually does become the king that he's known for or being in our fables, the great King Arthur who finds the Grail, the story of the Green Knight, all those things. But he makes this one bad choice early on where he doesn't decide to help a realm for his own personal reasons. This album picks up many, many, many years later. King Arthur is basically King Arthur now. He's also known as the Crow throughout this album when his enemies are speaking of him. And again, even what I just described is a lot of interpretation on my end. I am not 1,000% sure it's accurate. However, getting into the introduction of this album, there is this ulterior realm that I'm going to call Disturbia. And to my understanding, the human realm or Earth is called Discordia. And what is basically happening in the beginning of this album is a new leader has come to power in Disturbia, and he's telling his people it is time for us to claim a new land because we've done nothing but suffer. Our realm is destroyed, and not only do we need new land because we can't use this land, we want to get even with King Arthur and the old gods, who I believe are called the Nine. I've heard in multiple interpretations the Nine is either actually the council of Disturbia or they are the old gods. It doesn't really matter. From the point of view of the story, it really does sound like this new ruler wants to destroy the old gods because in some way they elected to allow King Arthur to either save this realm or not. And when he didn't, they refused to let anybody else intervene. So it's basically a retaliation against the old gods, King Arthur, and that desperate need to find a new civilization to start over. And this opening song is called. Okay, first off, I'll stop ranting for a second. Aegis, did you swallow even half of what I just said, and does it make sense?
I think it makes sense. It's kind of like verbal diarrhea, folks. If you haven't picked up on that already, he just kind of keeps foaming at the mouth, and eventually he will. You kind of start making more sense, or you just zone it completely. But I think I'll probably gather more as we go through the song and listen to it. Like, actually,
No, because what I just told you is not part of the song.
well, I
That
guess the
was why I thought
lore.
it was
I
important.
guess the lore is probably fine. Cool.
Okay, so the last part, and this is important for this song because sonically it's meant to sound like this. The song is called The Ninth Wave. That is tied into a painting. And that painting shows a bunch of sailors that look like they're about to drown on a failing like raft, and this huge wave is coming to hit them. And just behind this huge wave, there's sunlight. So in sailing terms, the ninth wave of a series of waves is supposed to always be the biggest wave and the worst one. But if you survive it, you will basically pass on to a better world. So this song is sonically very off. A lot of people find it odd because it flashes between this really dark war tone and this really upbeat chorus. And that's the reason. It's supposed to tie into that once we get beyond this last wave of suffering, this last wave of punishment, we will get to a better world. Make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, like when you said like they go through the dark parts of like the main verses and then they get into the upbeat part of the chorus, that's kind of them overcoming maybe the ninth wave per se for that part of the verse.
Exactly. So I just wanted to give you that, as you phrased it, verbal diarrhea because it's important, at least if we're going to try to talk story.
True.
All right. Are we ready to go?
Ready when you are.
I'm ready.
All right, going now.
So quick pause.
Yo,
Just so you're aware, this is not made up words or anything. They're actually speaking Latin.
that's basically made up words. Come on.
Yeah, it's definitely made up words. No, I looked it up earlier. I took the lyrics and I checked, and it is Latin.
It sounded like they were saying like distordia or dystopia or something.
So the first part, they're talking about light and darkness and light to guide the way. And then they say something about the final spear, which again, I'm sure that ties into this is the final assault. They're going to begin their attack on the other realm. And then, yes, they start chanting. It almost sounds like loyal followers or maybe an army chanting Discordia, Dystopia, Utopia, basically implying that to them, they're fighting to go to utopia from the destruction and the misery that they're in, right?
So in this case, like utopia is like the promised land or a better life.
Yes. And the way I interpret it is because Earth is called Discordia and this realm is called Disturbia, which unfortunately are so close together, I always have to pause to say them right. I think their belief is if they combine the realms under them, it'll become Utopia.
Okay, interesting.
So that's how I've interpreted it. If there's any Blind Guardian fans who've interpreted the story better than me, please let us know in the comments. I'm not above saying I'm not 1,000% certain on this one. It's not a real world story. Therefore, I can't go in the history books to back up what I'm saying.
Okay, quick question. So Discordia, that's our Earth. Now is
Yes.
Disturbia? See, I had to pause there too. But
Yeah.
is Disturbia, is that supposed to be like an inverse Earth?
Yeah. It's supposed to be the equivalent of the upside down or the darker version of the world. But I think what Blind Guardian's trying to show, especially in the original song, which unfortunately I'm forgetting the name, is this realm was doomed by King Arthur's choice. It was not initially a dark mirror of our world. He made a choice for his own reasons, good or bad, and it damned an entire race. And now they're
Interesting.
basically coming back. The interesting thing about this is this song and next song are going to sound almost sympathetic, but these are the bad guys, especially when you realize the overarching title is Cleansing of the Promised Land.
Interesting. Yeah, see, I was thinking actually low rule and high rule, like from Link to the Past and Link Between Worlds. But cool.
Oh, yeah, that's one way to look at it. Yeah, I think that you're right on that. That is a good way to look at it.
Nice.
All right,
Cool.
we haven't even gotten to the actual singing yet. We're
Nope.
talking.
It's still chanting, yet we're still talking.
Yep. All right.
Can I just say this sounds awesome. Like it sounds like boss music from like Bloodborne or Dark Souls or some kind of epic game.
Yeah, someone commented on our last video that they thought "And Then There Was Silence" would be a good intro to D&D. I disagree. I think this would be a good intro to D&D.
Yeah. I think that like, especially the orchestral choir in the background, that sounds awesome. It kind of reminds me, you ever hear the band Bang Camaro?
No, but you can absolutely show me at some time and we can play it on here.
Cool. Note to self.
Um, but I would say yes. I wanted to say that to me this sounds like either like I'm picturing up on a tower a bunch of dark priests praying, or I'm picturing an army preparing and this is like a war chant.
So
But
is
it's almost like it's sorry.
no, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, but it almost has a religious feel, which is ironic because they're supposed to not be religious, and it's supposed to be the entire point of them is they're not religious.
Hmm.
Carry on.
I actually forgot what I was gonna say, but I couldn't have been. Oh, sorry. Is the Middle Earth song on this on the album Beyond the Red Mirror?
No, that's an entire album.
Oh, I was gonna
Um,
say, 'cause this sounds like it kind of be like Middle Earthy, like a Mordor or whatever.
no, that's not this album, but I can show you that album at some point. Nightfall is a very good song off of it.
Mm,
All
nice.
right, sorry, let's get back into it. So pause, and I'm so sorry. We will rewind a second. We will rewind 5 seconds, guys. Do you see what I'm saying about this sounds like a speech?
It sounds like Force Awakens. I forget Buddy's name, General Hux, and he's like shouting out and chanting out to the stormtroopers or the First Order, and they're all like they just salute once he's done screaming. It sounds like it's like Aragon making a speech to the final men of Middle Earth before they charge at the gates.
I get, and I rarely get such a clear visual when I'm listening to a song, but I picture almost a Middle East or a Middle Earthian thing where armies are marching by and this guy is like placed up on some rock ledge just screaming out over the army is what I picture every time I hear the song.
Kind of like a war priest kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. what I picture.
That's
Um,
pretty awesome.
so back up by just a second because I didn't want to ruin the upscaling music going, but I did want to say, what do you like it?
Oh yeah, it sounds like epic. It sounds like epic video game music. It's awesome.
It does. I agree. And again, this it paints a somewhat sympathetic light, but you can see some things wrong with it. He says this is for the sake of our nation. We need to find light. We need to do this in order to help ourselves. But then he says things like we will wipe them out and we will cleanse them, which are not usually words combined with the good guys, right?
So this is King Arthur basically speaking
Oh,
to. No, this is basically Lorule speaking to their occupants to try and invade Earth.
yes. This is
Ah,
preparation for war on their end.
neat. Okay.
All right, let's get into the actual more upswing side of the song. Pause.
So I get what
So
you're saying there. It's actually it picks up in a lot of like it makes a cheerier tone in the chorus. It's almost like it's hopeful.
it reminds me of dictators and stuff that say a bunch of bad things and then say, but I'm your hope.
Mm.
That's what it reminds me of. And
So
that's where I started to pick up these aren't the good guys of the album.
right. Well, yeah, exactly. Why do they call him the Crow?
That's a good question because crows are usually tied in with prophecy and with future sight. And considering one of the next songs on this album is called Prophecies and it's about King Arthur, I think maybe it's because he has prophetic capabilities.
Mm. Okay.
Um, but what did you think of the whole we're gonna go kill the dying old crow? Like there's clearly a lot of revenge in this whole we want to live thing.
Yeah, there's it's like he has a grudge against him, or they've met in a previous time, and there's like some bad blood between them, or just he just doesn't like him for whatever reason.
Well, he doesn't like him because King Arthur chose not to come save this realm when he was told he was the only hope for it.
Mm.
So I think
That's
that gives pretty good reason.
so the lore that you know and you kind of explained at the start of the video. Did you get this from a previous album, or did you look it up yourself?
It came from a song, and I can never remember the name of the song, and I haven't heard it in a long time. But the original song talked about kind of making those personal choices versus the choices of the many. Um, and I mean, this really casts the story of what happened to this realm after he failed, because he says things like, "There's a curse. You know, even though we were supposed to all die off, life has flourished. We're still here, right?" Um, and now we're going to go kill the dying old crow. So that sets the timeline here. When King Arthur in the previous story was talked about, he was young, he was inexperienced. Now they're saying he's old to the point where he's dying. So time has passed between those things, right?
Like the disease or the infection they have is
Pardon?
like the illness or like the thing that's killing them. Do we know what it is?
No, I think the implication is they call it a curse because they're basically saying the old gods curse them. But really, what it is it sounds like it's turmoil and maybe some kind of famine.
Hmm.
but basically their realm fell apart, everything failed, they went to war with each other, and now this guy is coming to unite them all and bring them together and say, this isn't about us, this is about those who cursed us, which is King Arthur and the old gods.
God, the gods were dicks.
Yeah, you're gonna hear more of that in Twilight of the Gods. um but okay, so what do you think so far?
I think it's good. Uh, I'm wondering, it's got to inevitably get to the point where they meet this old guy who doesn't like the old crow, and either they square off, or maybe there's some respect given, or he just straight up dies.
Can't spoil that. You're gonna have to listen to the whole album. We're obviously not gonna get to that in 2 songs.
Probably not.
Pause. So I want you to back up by just a second because this part is important. But that's what I'm saying. You start to see the darkness here, right? Bring the damned. We will burn them. Do as I say. Praise our triumph. It will grow. We'll defy the nine, which were the old gods, and we'll delete the dying old crow. These aren't good guys, right? But he's
No.
saying things that he thinks will win support.
Hmm.
Now I love the next part because I okay. So the next part is it's not sympathetic. That was a wrong word, but this theme starts very early in the album, and I do enjoy it. These people or whatever they are, these creatures don't believe in gods, but what they also believe in is a neutrality, that there is no real good and evil. And I love this. This picks up in Twilight of the Gods, but it basically shows like the statements of this thing and that thing that sounds so polar opposite. They're really the exact same thing. There's no difference if you believe this. There's no difference if you believe that. I love that theme, that neutrality of like all of this is the same. You'll see
Hmm.
what I'm talking about in a second, but I love that theme as it comes in.
Isn't that more interesting too? The fact that gray sounds better than black and white. There's more
Yeah,
depth there. It's not cut and dry. It's not simple.
which is another reason why I like that this album picks up with the bad guys. It gives you a minute to see this is why they believe what they believe, right? And it is sympathetic. They were basically left to die, and now they're coming back for revenge, but they're doing it by, as you just saw, burning any old believers. Any believers in the old gods will be burned, literally.
I mean, everyone is the hero in their story, but like, you think of Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings, the bad guys were clearly ugly and like smelly bad guys. They were orcs. And then if you look at
Right.
like A Song of Ice and Fire, the good guys and bad guys, it's not so easy to tell. Everybody has their own motives, and everybody's maybe a little good. There's also a little bad there, a little selfishness.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing. You can tell that whatever this guy or his army believe, they think that what they're doing is right. But you just got your first taste of they're saying burn the damned. And to them, the damned are anyone who follows gods.
Mm. Well, I'm glad
So
that's not a thing in our life, or in
I
in our country,
was about to say.
or
Anyway, all right.
the region we live.
Yeah, let's just hit play.
Okay, so just before, when they're talking about imaginations, are they like basically referring to those that are believing in gods and then trying
Yes.
to kill them? Hmm.
And in the last line here, denied by their savior. But did you notice the part before that where it says, walk with me to Sheol, walk with me to Abaddon, which are all different versions of saying the void?
So Abaddon, what is Abaddon? Is it like
It's
hell or like the in between?
That's the point. Abaddon is supposed to be the void. Azuriel's fire is supposed to be near the entrance to hell. Sheol is supposed to be the great beyond. He's saying they're all the exact same thing.
Hmm.
So he's saying, and this is dark, but he's saying he's sending them all to the exact same place, even though they all believe in different things.
Now that's a parallel to real life.
Yeah. So I love the theme. Obviously, I don't love what it's being tied into, but that's supposed to be the point. You see what they're saying, but at the same time, they're committing atrocities, right?
Isn't it funny how bands uh, they can kind of interject their own thoughts on life into their songs? I mean, I
Yeah.
remember uh, who's it? Oh, Rage Against the Machine. They put out a new song, and I remember seeing somebody tweet about, "Don't make your songs political. Keep the politics out of your music." And then someone's comment was like, "Do you even listen to Rage Against the Machine? Do you even read their name? Like what?"
Do you even know the name of the band?
Yeah.
All right. All right. We're 4 minutes into a 9 minute song, and we have another 5 minute song after this, and we only have 20 minutes. We should probably hit play. So therein lies one of the problems.
What's that?
They want to be the new gods. They believe that mortals are the new gods.
So they don't believe in them, but they want to ascend to godhood.
Effectively, yes. And Aeon means eternity, so they want to be the gods for eternity once they conquer.
Well, damn, that's a lofty goal. Shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that ties in with dictatorship and rule and using things that people believe to turn them on them, right?
Yep. Okay, here, Belial. Now I'm thinking of him from like was Belial in Diablo 2 or 3? Anyways, is he like a minion of hell or like one of the devil's like lieutenants or something?
Yes.
Hmm.
Well, he would be the equivalent. I don't actually know that he originally came from Christianity. I believe he came from another religion. But yes, the point is yes. Yeah. Yes.
Hmm. So these people that don't believe in gods still believe in hell. That seems kind of weird.
No, no, I don't think they do. I think the implication is, again, he's trying to draw the parallel of they're crawling to the dying old crow who we see as Belial. They see him as
Oh.
a savior. They've prayed to their savior, but their savior was really the one who damned us.
Hmm.
So they crawl to Belial while they crawl to the crow.
So he basically damned them when he refused to help the world that was in need of his help.
Yes. So
Hmm.
he's comparing him to Belial while other people think he's a savior. In other words, it's all the same. It's all gray. That theme continues throughout the whole album.
That's cool. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that solo there, first of which, awesome, just awesome. But I feel like at the start where it felt like there was like a lot of like momentum and movement, I could picture like somebody just cutting swaths through a battlefield, and then it just kind of changed the tone. Like
Hmm.
what do you think when you hear that solo?
I feel like this is them entering the portal or whatever the red door is, or the red mirror. I believe this is supposed to be them, maybe literally, maybe figuratively sailing to it.
Mm,
Um, I think this is supposed to be like that epic noise that you would hear in the background of a movie while like they're sailing towards foreign shores to attack.
yep.
That's what I get out of it. What about you?
Uh, I thought they were already passed through it, and then they're kind of just meeting them on like the battlefield, and they're making headway. I don't know, maybe I could be wrong.
See, well, the thing is the problem, and since you haven't heard the album yet, the problem with that is that the next song is still set in Disturbia,
So
because this is where they're cleansing their entire nation of anyone who still believes in the old gods. So this and the next song, oh, it could be them going to war with locals. That could be it.
hmm.
Them
Or
beginning
maybe,
them beginning the war.
or even them like committing the cleansing, and then that just, I guess the tone maybe doesn't match up, but it could be.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Well, I'm
the
not sure.
so the whole album basically follows the campaign of Disturbia against Discordia, and then the inevitable meeting of the old crow and their leader.
Yes.
Neat. That's cool.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, again, sometimes this album I've never had it explained to me in detail, so I'm forced to make guesses. To me, it sounds like they're sailing into a battle. I don't know. I guess maybe it's the ninth wave, but I guess it could be sailing onto shores in their own realm and just attacking anyone who has faith.
It could
Because
be.
it does tie in with the previous line of burn them all, right? So I guess I picture villages burning and that didn't like almost like march on the march, I guess would be the way to say it.
Hmm. Yeah, I get that vibe.
All right. So I think I might have been right there now that I'm actually thinking about it.
Hmm.
Um,
But what?
the because the next lines after that breakdown were about um, taking away salvation. There won't be salvation. We're going to wipe them out, burn them all. It does sound very much like they entered a city and ransacked it. They removed the king, but he's still saying this isn't the end objective. The end objective is to go to Discordia and kill King Arthur.
So he basically he's cleansing the cities and the population that are believers in the old gods still to make them, I guess, one unified body.
Yes. So that's what the next song, Twilight of the Gods, is about.
That should
And
probably be a good listen, actually.
it is. And I do want to get your opinion on this before I say my little speech about Twilight of the Gods. What did you think of this song as an intro to an album?
I thought it sounded pretty epic. I did notice how like the tone or like the instrumentals during the verses were like the tone was almost drastically different, and it kind of threw me off at times, but not
Right.
in a bad way. I think it's just how it's supposed to be, because like the it felt like the chorus built up, and then it's almost like you fell off the end of a cliff, and then that's the next verse because it goes back to a different tone. It's a tone shift.
It goes back to the gritty realism of what he's actually doing. To me, the
So
choruses are the promise, whereas the verses are this is what he's cleansing an entire land of its people. Right?
yeah, so he's basically having his speeches and rallying and trying to generate energy and hope for his what would be troops. And then during the verses, he's committing atrocities and killing those that aren't fully on his cause or believing in the old gods still.
Exactly. So
Mm.
my little spiel, and there isn't as much information on this one. This song is what it is. It's dark. It's well done because again, it paints a portrait of a much more complicated situation than I think you would expect. But Twilight of the Gods is very frequently tied in with World War II.
Oh,
Um, it's tied in with when Japan was fighting the United States, and basically the emperor of Japan, how he was forced into being seen as immortal after World War II. So the battle for the islands around Japan and the conquering of Japan is sometimes called the Twilight of the Gods because the Japanese people were forced to accept that their ruler was not an actual god.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
So that ties in pretty heavily with the actual song. So I, even though I don't know that it's correlated, I would be curious whether or not that potentially inspired the name.
Hmm, that would be good for, I would say for you to look into just so I don't get spoiled for that song. Although,
Mhm.
like I said before, I kind of want to listen to this album as I work out in the next 15 minutes. But
Absolutely.
what was cool is that while the last bit of the song was playing, I was trying to Google to see what the album like what the type of album is called. Turns out it's like a concept album, and that doesn't even sound like it's right to me or like it's ringing a bell. But it's an album that tells a narrative from start to finish instead of having each song be its own independent thing, which I think those kinds of albums are awesome.
Yep, it's a concept album. That's
It's like
exactly the right thing.
it's like
That's
a
the same.
movie.
Yep. A concept album is an album that tells a story. That's what this is. It would be probably fantasy or power metal if you were to give it a name based on genre. But yeah, it's a concept album. It's like The Wall.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. That's what was quoted on Wikipedia. The wall.
Are you ready to do Twilight of the Gods? This
Yeah,
one's much shorter. It is only 5 minutes.
yeah. So that's like a 40-minute video for us.
It is like a 40-minute video for us. Let's go ahead and start it up
Okay, later, guys.
later.